The court, being duly advised, finds the defendant is in
Did you
imminent
mean to
danger
hit
of serious-
live?
The court, being duly advised, finds the defendant is in imminent danger of serious bodily injury or death. Hello, everybody, and welcome to R&M Productions, my new channel.
Hello, everyone. How are we doing on this Wednesday evening?
I'm pretty good.
Yeah?
Let's see what the chat's up to.
Let's see
That
what the chat's up to.
Does sound like me. And no, it's not the new intern. It's not in trouble. Maybe the new intern was on top of it the whole time.
Hi, TT.
TT, shout out to TT, a great transcriber.
Michael is here. Hi, Michael. Welcome. Courtney will be joining us shortly. We got the Royal Wheat.
It's very short.
Remember when Royal Wheat made their YouTube name the Royal Wheat for like 2 weeks after the Supreme Court oral arguments?
Do you remember that one time we had to explain that joke?
Yes, I do.
Oh, it goes way back. Way back.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody, how hot is it where you guys are currently living? Tell us where you live.
Tell us where you live and how to get there. Rockaways, hi. Jen is here. Jen P is also here.
Shout out to Big Fish.
Big Fish.
Kayla's been ready since 4:13.
Big Fish is the best. Big Fish is my oldest YouTube friend.
Nice. They are awesome.
They're awesome. I'd get 2 comments on my very first videos, and one of them would be Big Fish. Sometimes both of them would be Big Fish. Oh, Tammy's here somewhere.
Wasn't me.
No, it wasn't.
So some stuff been going on in the old Delphi case lately.
Yeah, so what are we talking about tonight?
The Department of Corrections.
Oh, the Department of Corrections. The
Indiana Department of Corrections.
Yeah. They're it's kind of a scary place. I would not want to be there. I don't love it.
I've only gone there in my dreams.
In your dreams.
It's not
in your nightmares. To visit. Never mind. Should we wait for Courtney to do the actually get into the meat and taters? Do you think?
I think we've both waited for Courtney enough in the last month or so. I'm sure people are not. I'm sure people are all set on that.
Okay.
That's fair enough. What that looks like.
Okay. Fair enough. So what I figured I really want to talk about tonight, and then DB, you can, I don't know if you want to intro what you're going to talk about, but we have this kind of groovy timeline that we've been putting together for months now. And since the hearings, we've been going through everybody's notes and trying to kind of like compare what the news has reported. Hi, all eyes. Yay, I'm happy you're here. Thank you for your help too, by the way. Sorry, I get distracted in the chat. So our timeline, we've added a bunch to it, and I kind of want to like, do you think we should go through the timeline or?
Let's go through the timeline
Okay.
in a oriented manner from the earliest time in the timeline to the latest time in the timeline.
Okay, you first. Go. You start.
Okay, so we have been compiling important dates that we find that are, have some way that they're interacting with another date that comes on later, or, has some type of interesting outcome that maybe wasn't foreseen at the time. Obviously, as you guys know, that happens quite often in this case. It's
Yeah.
always something that ends up happening that you didn't see coming, but in hindsight, it all makes sense.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we wanted to talk about was starting in 2022. We know that Richard Allen was arrested shortly before October 27, 2022. And on October 27th, prosecutor Nick McClellan files the motion to seal the PCA, citing extraordinary circumstances and an ongoing investigation. So we all know that part, right? And we all know that Nick, prosecutor McClellan, claims that there's these extraordinary circumstances. And at the time, we didn't know what they were. No one knew what they were. Did Nick even know? I'm not sure. I doubt it. But we had to assume that the prosecutor was telling the truth here, and the prosecutor really did believe that there was extraordinary circumstances. And I asked the chat this: what would be an extraordinary circumstance?
I like that question. What would be an extraordinary circumstance that would justify or necessitate keeping a probable cause affidavit for an arrest sealed indefinitely is what they were requesting. I don't know. Some crazy. Criminal underworld.
The Rockaway says yes, timelines rule. Agreed. Dean says, wait for Yellow Jacket, do a crossword. Yeah, I am on crossword number 2 of my life. It's been a struggle, but I did, without the help of you amazing people, finish my first crossword.
Oh, you mean you're working on it? You're working on crossword number 2, not creating a crossword.
No, it's out of the same book that my mother got in 1994
Okay.
at a garage sale.
Okay.
It's like the first one.
Got it.
10,000 crosswords for good little boys is the title of the crossword.
A dozen crosswords for good little boys. Yeah.
Okay, and then never a truer word. This is just a misinformation specialist. Don't listen to that person.
Oh, is that the
Yes.
Okay.
Dean says nice timeline analysis. Is that like statement analysis? No,
Yes.
This is actual time is a science. It can be reconstructed and mathematically subtracted from, multiplied different times to actually calculate what happens or how long a distance time is.
You think time is a science?
I think time is a flat circle.
Interesting. I think
Everything
time
we're
is
gonna do again.
I don't like to think about it.
And then Mandy, shout out. Mandy, oh, that's a nice little picture of you. I've never seen a picture of you. That's exactly what I thought you looked like.
Beautiful.
Hello, Mandy. You're arrested is not guilty. Okay. Here's one from Michael. One justification for a sealed PCA. Investigation of additional suspects is ongoing.
Ooh, that sounds familiar.
Okay, so that would be an extraordinary circumstance, it seems. Is that really extraordinary, though? I mean, some investigations have suspects. Some investigations have suspects that are arrested. Some have that are not arrested.
Right. And don't some investigations have suspects that are arrested at like different times? Like they'll arrest one and then like months or a year or later they'll arrest another one, right?
Yeah, I know that there's an investigator out there that knows that O.J. Simpson got arrested, but his accomplice hasn't been arrested yet, for that crime. That type of thing,
Yeah.
So both are, equally guilty, probably.
Sure. naturally. So
You can't do a statement analysis on me because it's all a jumbled mess.
because he's not real. He's not even really here. He's actually a bot.
I am a bot. October 28th, 2022. One of our favorite bots, Judge Diener, signs an order on initial hearing,
He's a bot.
stating that Allen has been advised of his rights to counsel, and he intends to hire private counsel.
Yeah. Okay. So, walk me through what this would look like in practice, not in theory. Like we always hear, like, oh, we had an initial hearing and blah, blah, blah. But like, what would that have looked like for Rick Allen? Like, what would it have looked like? Where would it have been? Who would have been there? What would have been said? What would he be wearing? Like, what do you think? Because I've thought about this a lot.
So I would imagine that an order on initial hearing could happen kind of like an arraignment would. I don't know how exactly it works in Indiana, but you'd be advised of your rights, which is what this document says happened. It says that he was advised of his rights and that he was advised of the charges against him. He was told that he could find private counsel because you have the right and that he has the right to remain silent.
Right.
Also, another comment from Michael here. There are so many sus things about the investigation. Wanting to keep the PCA sealed isn't among them, in my humble or honest opinion.
Okay. I mean, certainly not the most sus. I would agree.
Ooh, True Grit Crime here. Hey, everybody, go subscribe to True Grit Crime. Thank you for helping me today, True Grit Crime. Very great notes. I'm working on getting them compiled.
Yeah,
they were very helpful.
I rewatched her on Teresa's live the other night, and there were things I just missed the first time. It's cool having people go to hearings and take notes when otherwise we'd literally know nothing except for what Nancy Grace and Susan Hendricks have to say. So anyway, so
Nancy Grace, what a treasure.
I like what Fiend made. Well, never mind. So I'll answer my own question here. I feel like an initial hearing. So he gets interrogated on the 26th by Jerome Holman. You did something. I'm going to fucking prove it. End scene. And then he's brought to Carroll County Jail, I presume, for, I don't know, had they charged him with anything yet at that point? I don't think so. How long can you hold somebody in Indiana without charging them?
Indefinitely.
That makes sense. That figures. So he spends a day or two between the time Holman arrests him, detains him, and cuffs him, and you're under arrest, to the time he has his initial hearing before the judge. I just can't imagine what that would have looked like. Did they close the whole courthouse down? Because it's the 28th was a Friday. The courthouse is open. They're hearing.
Well, with this type of extraordinary circumstances,
right?
I would imagine that the National Guard would be there. There would be a huge safety issue. There would be barriers, barricades, stuff like that.
For this initial hearing,
we have not DB here. Fine, gentlemen.
Hey, not DB.
Saying 72 hours is likely. Okay, thank you. True Grit Crime confirming 72 hours without a charge.
Feels like
you have Michael Osbrook. Saying 48 hours, I believe. I don't know who this Michael Osbrook guy is, but I don't know.
He's got some good intel. It's definitely 72
hours. You know what?
personal experience.
I love that. Kidding.
So 72 hours, okay.
See, by the time it gets to habeas, the amount of time that they were held for being charged, it's like minimal impact, right?
True.
Bean says Rick Allen is the National Guard. Yeah. A stone cold killer with indirect fire. Okay, so Diener signs an order on the initial hearing and advises him of his rights. And allegedly, which I believe, is that they believe, or they said that Rick Allen wanted to hire private counsel, which is his right.
I think he
And
did too.
he did hire private counsel.
Or he spoke to there was a day. I don't believe the person ever even entered an appearance, but I remember that at one point, I have to find it. I have saved it. There's like 2 news articles I found that said that they're probably gone now because that's how they roll in this case. But I think he like spoke to a private attorney or was going to hire a private attorney, and then obviously very quickly realized that was just like not a feasible thing for anybody to try and do, like hire private counsel for a case like this. So
Oh my God. Hi, Cleveland Rocks.
Hi, Cleveland.
I'm sorry I missed you.
Don't do that again.
I won't do that again. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah. So what are you saying, that it's unlikely that they would have, he would have been able to find a life without parole attorney for the amount of money he was going to be able to afford? That would have given him adequate counsel in like a short period of time?
I think it would have been
difficult.
We are gonna block you. Thank you. $2024, no second chances. 28th, 2022. So then what happens on the 1st? This is, okay. Do you want to talk about the letter?
Yes, let's talk about the letter.
Okay. Go.
We have 2 versions of that in there. I'm going to take that out. Okay. So if y'all have seen this letter, on November 1st, after, the 28th, he says he's going to try to seek private counsel, right? He talks to some people, and we just seen filing a lawsuit this week that we looked at where somebody was seeking counsel and had to document it to show that they tried to seek counsel to take a case pro bono before they would get the court to appoint an attorney. This is a different matter, but sometimes it's important to show that you've tried before you throw yourself at the mercy of the court, because he's not homeless. He owns a home. He's been employed. He wants to show in good faith that he's tried to hire private counsel before just being claimed that he's indigent. And so, a couple days goes by and he sends this letter, and it's an undated letter, unfortunately. I think this is a good lesson.
Can we read it?
Yeah.
I would like to read it. I was thinking about it. I would really like to read it because I just remember I had a very strong reaction to it when we first saw it, and I feel like I want to revisit it.
I'm pulling it up. That link broke somehow.
Oh, sorry.
Fucking Notion. Oh, by the way, I got to give you an update on that one. Offline. That's the deep cut, folks.
Oh God. Okay. Do you want me to try and link the
No, I'll find it.
Okay, I'm not gonna touch it. Anyway, so this letter was filed. We don't know when it was written, but it was definitely written on or before November 1st. And the reason we know that, you'll see here in a second, but I would probably guess that it was written the day before. So like the 31st, which was the day that they had the press conference, the trick or treat press conference, where Doug Carter had the sniffles, and that was the 31st. Okay, do you want to read it?
I'm gonna find the envelope because that thing broke. Can you read it?
Yes, I'll read it.
No one wants to hear me talk, so.
Yeah, right, sure. No, they're all here for my voice talent. So it's file stamped, but that's not when it was written, so ignore that. It says to Carroll Circuit Court and those associated. Read cause number, and then there's his case number. In the cause listed above, I, Richard M. Allen, hereby throw myself at the mercy of the court. I am begging to be provided with legal assistance in a public defender or whatever help is available. At my initial hearing on October 28th, 2022, I asked to find representation for myself. However, at the time, I had no clue how expensive it would be just to talk to someone. I also did not realize what my wife and I's immediate financial situation was going to be. We have both been forced to immediately abandon employment, myself due to incarceration and my wife for her personal safety. She's had to abandon our house for her own safety. What little reserve there is will fail to even maintain the original residence. Again, I throw myself at the mercy of the court. Please provide me whatever assistance you may. Thank you. Thank you for your time in this most urgent matter. Sincerely, Richard M. Allen.
Okay, so chat, when you guys see this letter, what do you think is dated? Just when you first seen it. First thing that sticks out to you. What do you think? Because when I first seen it, I was like, oh, it says November 9th up there, right? So, I mean, it kind of makes sense that this letter was stamped on November 9th. Maybe it was written on November 9th. Silly me. It says Clerk Carroll Circuit Court. It's the date it was filed. Right. He doesn't have bad handwriting. I'm sure never a truer words. I could do some extra analysis on that. Oh my God. I have a little surprise for you guys.
Oh my God, is it my friend? Oh my God. Hello.
Oh my God.
Look at those delts. You dealt it up.
Hi, friend.
Hi.
Welcome.
Can y'all hear me okay? I've got my trying headphones because I still can't get my mic to work. So.
Yes.
You sound good.
I can hear you.
Good. You sound okay. I mean, not as good as some people, but.
What are y'all doing in here?
Oh, reading this here letter that we're asking the chat to share when they think this letter was written based on what they remember from when they saw it initially and when and what it says. So we've got some November 9th. It was filed November 9th. The fiend says November 9th.
Okay, so it's looking like that.
Can I read this comment?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sad to see how intelligently he wrote and all that's happened to his mind since. And I agree. Yeah, I was thinking about how that video of Rick that everyone likes to be like, oh, he was doing something on his phone that he shouldn't have been doing when he was sitting in the car and Kathy like snuck up on him. We zoomed in. He was doing a crossword puzzle in his crossword puzzle book in the car. And
absolutely a crossword puzzle. Absolutely, yes. What it is.
And we know from Dr. Walla. But Dr. Walla even said at first, like he would just read, he would do crossword puzzles. So yeah, he obviously he had a good job that he maintained, and he liked to do intellectually stimulating like things. So he's not a dummy, you know.
So in this letter, he says, I didn't realize, I had no clue how expensive it would be just to talk to someone. So it doesn't seem like he had really in-depth conversations with attorneys. It didn't seem like he was talking about his case. Seems like maybe he realized that even having a small conversation, even giving somebody a rundown on what's happened was going to be fairly expensive. And he probably realized that fairly quickly and wanted to throw himself at the mercy of the court so that he can get adequate representation and assert his right to be provided an attorney if he could not afford one.
So just what it says, like he just meant what he wrote, basically?
Yes.
Oh.
Why would he use the word begging? You know, so the language, I'm not going to do statement analysis. Okay. For starters, I'm not qualified. And second of all, that's not a thing. But
no one's qualified.
Exactly. But his his language here is like desperate. I throw myself at the mercy of the court. I'm begging you to provide me with legal assistance. It's just like, I don't know. And I wonder, like, if you're incarcerated, so at this point he would have been, I think, in White County, right?
Yes.
Or maybe like, well, we don't know when he wrote it.
We'll get into that.
Who fucking knows? Right. So he's in county jail at this point, and then I'm going to stop talking. He's in county jail still at this point. which means reasonable access to whatever. I mean, so I just wonder, like, I would really, one day, I hope that we learn more about what those first days were like, because like, why was he so desperate? Like, why is he writing to the court? Wouldn't it be easier to like pick up the phone? And I don't know. To me, it just seems like.
Or maybe there's a way he could have communicated this. We'll get into that. But first, I wanted to say, why didn't he send a voice clip of this? Because Susan Hendricks would have you believe he's not sending a voice clip because it's going to sound like Bridge Guy. And people also say in this letter, he doesn't proclaim his innocence, but
yeah.
he pled guilty sometime just before this letter.
Not
Or
guilty.
I'm sorry, pled guilty, not guilty. That would be
right.
a real.
That'd be a bizarro.
Okay. That's the letter. And the reason why we have this dated for the first in the timeline.
Will you pull up Jenny's comment real quick, the one before last?
Oh, yeah. 1 second.
Because she's right. I've screamed.
Jenny?
Like right above Edgar's. No, then up a little more. Her one before that. Yes. This is something I swear I screamed so many times in the early days, and it's such a simple and logical thought. Sounds like he never even contemplated being arrested. Wouldn't the real killer be thinking ahead of what he would say if that day came? Yes. You would be.
But wouldn't they?
You'd be living, if for all these years, just plotting and scheming of, if they loop back around, if they call me again, this is what, if I get asked. I mean, you had 6 years to be like thinking of anything that may come up, anything you may be asked. 6 years to stalk all the public knowledge about the case, to figure out if you need to pivot and change your story at all. And he just goes to the cops and is like, I don't know, might have been wearing a blue or black jacket. I don't know. Yeah, I have a gun. He talked to the cops, first of all, without a lawyer. Because he could have very easily just been like, no, I don't want to talk to y'all. Thanks.
Yeah,
But
I agree.
it's a great point.
Some comments here too. An intelligent person would be thinking of going directly to the judge. Well, this letter's not to the judge, right?
I mean,
to the Carroll Circuit Court, because when was Judge Gull appointed?
well,
this is still Diener. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty clear that he wasn't writing to Goal. So
Right.
that's a context clue.
Let's look at this letter. Let's look at this envelope, guys. Let's talk about some dates on this envelope. We know that the letter was entered into the record on the 9th, right? But this envelope has a lot of dates on it.
A lot.
But one thing I want to clarify is something that doesn't have on it is legal. It doesn't have anything on here saying that this is legal mail, does it?
Mm-mm.
So we see here in some of this red font, this filed. The envelope looks like it was filed by the clerk of Carroll Court, or by the clerk of Carroll County on November 7th, right? And November 10th. Huh.
Maybe
What's
that's
my
the
birthday?
day it became
December 5.
Well, there's a little date down there way at the bottom. You see it was returned. There's 2 stamps on the right, 2 stamps on the left. Returned, no longer in custody. Go to the very, very bottom of that envelope, if you can zoom in, that little barcode right there. That seems like the first time a post office touched it.
Nope.
We thought that too, but nope.
Oh, but wait, there's more?
The first time a post office touched this envelope would have been November 1st in Indianapolis.
So
And
DB.
PM2L?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I see.
Oh.
So right now, if you guys type in PM2L postmarking, you'll see that this is a canceled letter.
What does that mean?
Well, sometimes when you're arrested for a serious crime, you're going to be going to jail for a while. Your address is going to be changing, or they want to intercept your communications. Like they're going to look at your devices, your phone, your computer, anything that is communicating to other people. And if they think
Mhm.
other people may be involved in a crime, they would put a stop mail order on somebody's name and somebody's address, right? But this person would be known to be in a particular county jail already, and you would maybe ask you, well, how do they get mail out of jails for attorneys usually? Well, they usually mark it. Usually something will indicate that it's a legal piece of mail. Maybe not always, but they have a process in place that would be able to identify that this is privileged mail. Either the letter goes into a privileged box and then the whole box gets shipped out. It doesn't get, they don't go through it. Obviously, each facility has its own practices and policies. We learned just recently that, the prison has a policy of copying, even if it's discovery, they'll copy pieces of paper themselves to try to, avoid any K2 or, spice being contaminated on the paper.
Mhm.
But it looks like this envelope was accepted and printed on November 1st in the Indianapolis U.S. Postal Service.
So if it's processed in Indiana, or at least it's Indianapolis on the 1st, he could have
Yes.
mailed it like first thing in the morning, or what's more likely is he probably put it in the mail the day before and it got there the next day, right?
Yes, and here's a great comment from True Good Crime. She says, you write your legal mail on the outside of the paper or envelope, and they take it over to the courthouse and put it in the attorney's box, right? He's in White County, though. So I'm guessing it could cause a little confusion. Where, does he have a PD? Is the PD in White County? Are they here? Where does this piece of paper go? And he wanted to go just directly to the judge, right? So how did he know that he was going to go directly to the judge and not his attorney because he didn't have an attorney? Normally, it would go right to their attorney, just like True Grit Crime is saying.
Yeah, he also probably didn't know that you put legal how would he know? He's never been in jail or arrested or in trouble, and he didn't have an attorney advice. Like, he didn't know anything. Like, it's he was totally on his own here, just like, what the fuck is going on? And Fiends even said, like, hey, Kokomo, I had fun with you in the other chat the other day. Anyway, so the fact that he's been, okay, so he goes from Carroll to White. He writes this probably the 31st. There's a national press conference occurring on this day, ladies and gentlemen. Let's not forget, where they are blasting Rick Allen's face and name to the entire fucking world, calling him a murderer of 2 children. I'd probably be writing a letter too, like, desperate. I mean, he probably didn't even then, like, until that, like this is not, like, surely this is a mistake, like, surely this is a mistake. It'll get sorted. Nope. Doug Carter's here and he's telling everybody that you killed 2 kids. Like, can you just imagine the desperation? Like, I would be freaking the fuck out personally. So, I mean, anyway, sorry.
Yeah, and here's another comment by Cleveland.
Yes.
They purposely denied him counsel to capture and control him. Evil B words.
Dan, can you please just be cool, man? I'm like begging you. I want you to just be cool and hang out with us. Like, don't make me clap you, bro. I feel like that's a fair ask. Like, come on. The state of Indiana respected all of his constitutional rights. I agree with you, Cleveland. I think that was, but yeah, we'll get into it a little more. I have some like theories, but okay. So
you're saying they can't read your mail, True Grit Crime, right? Because it's privileged. Another thing, when you do send outgoing mail, you are not allowed to seal the envelope. Now, is that for legal mail too? Or if you mark it legal mail, do you get to seal the envelope? I mean, I guess that's kind of irrelevant here, but it's just like interesting to think about all those types of things that you'd probably get told by, a guard, maybe, somebody that's a clerk or in the
Or
administration.
another inmate. Like, think, where
Right.
do you learn most of how you're going to survive the weeks or months that you're in county jail? You learn from the other fucking inmates who are going to tell you, like, the three. So at this time, by the way, in October 2022, I'm not trying to point, in October 2022, Carroll County had 3 jail officers. 3. So, like, they're not going to walk their double murderer of Abby and Libby through how to address his fucking envelope. You know what I mean? Like, this guy was just like totally at the mercy of whoever would listen to him and help him. And yeah, it's just, so I mean, it just makes a lot more sense to me now. And I don't know when or who found that November 1st stamp, but like, shooketh that it was like this letter was like bad enough the first time, and now it's like, so he fucking wrote it probably like the 31st of October, and it didn't get filed until the fucking 9th. Sorry.
Right. So we're looking at the other dates here. We see mailed from White County Jail. That's stamped on there. On the left here, the red lettering, you see mailed from White County Jail again, and it also is stamped over saying that they're no longer in custody. And you would do that if you sent this letter out. You would stamp no longer in custody if the person left like that night or something, right? And it was getting sent out the next day, maybe. But
yeah,
it's a return, right? So if the mail was canceled, and then on November 1st, this was returned from the Indianapolis USPS office to White County Jail, it would come back to White County Jail saying mailed from White County Jail. He would be moved, and that would be stamped again, but with no longer in custody in White County Jail, and then sent back. Or, I don't know, maybe it was hand delivered. There's no other stamp on it that it went anywhere else. So we're not sure if it was hand delivered or got into the custody of somebody, but it doesn't seem like maybe that they picked it up at the post office. I don't know, dude. But
why would it matter if an inmate is no longer okay? So the trajectory of this letter went from White County, where Rick was when he wrote it. He sent it out. However, it got to the Indianapolis post office, except they stamped it and then didn't accept it, right?
that seems like
Why did it go to the Indianapolis post office?
What, Yellow?
It's just the major post office.
Why did it go to the Indianapolis post office?
Like the hub. That's where like they go and then they get sorted and they get sent out. Yeah, it's for somewhere like small. I don't know, but so
was his hearing?
I can't.
His
hear
hearing
you
was the
very
28th.
easily.
Still can't hear me? I took my headphones out.
No, you're better now.
Okay, maybe I'm just not talking. Am I better now?
Yes, you're perfect.
Better?
The 28th of October, right?
In Carroll County, right?
Yes. So it goes from White County, though, where he is, to Indianapolis post office. And somehow, I don't know what that would look like, what a mail stop would look like, or who would initiate it. I'm sure it's like an automated thing, right? Like,
yes.
Okay, so like they recognize. Go ahead.
Okay, so it would be somebody would be putting a stop mail order in.
Yeah.
But it would be automatically caught at the sorting facility.
How would they know the individual that wrote it though versus like
so right. Well, that's you see how these and this is generally how I understand it. I'm not saying this is exactly what happened here.
Yeah.
You see these barcodes right here down at the bottom of this letter.
Oh, right. I remember you telling me.
When it gets to the sorting facility, it has they do like some type of optical character recognition on the handwriting, or some type, there's a professional sorter, and they put it in these markings on it, and then the sorting machine faces it.
Okay.
A particular way. Oh, am I? Is this good? I'm sounding scratchy.
A little scratchy.
Okay, well, maybe I'm a little scratched.
Like it's
Maybe I got straightened up.
it's cutting out a little bit. It's to me like I don't know. We're having problems.
Yeah, but you guys can. This is like a pretty standard thing, I guess, and we did some research on it, and it definitely is more common than we expected.
What, the mail stop?
The mail stop, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like it happens. I don't know how common. I don't know if did you find how common it is? Because I don't know how common it is. I just remember hearing that it's not like yes,
Well,
that's a thing that sometimes happens.
Yes, it more or less that it's a thing that sometimes happens and it isn't like exclusive to this situation.
Right. Yeah.
But it's also not the most extraordinary thing.
Right. Okay, so they stop his mail at Indianapolis, won't send it to the court. It gets returned to White County, and by the time it gets to White County, the inmate returned. Inmate no longer in custody at White County Jail is what that says. They stamped over it for some reason. Inmate is no longer at White County Jail. So between the first and whenever it got returned to where Rick was when he wrote it, he had already been shuffled to DOC by then. So it took, obviously, by the 3rd of November, he's being hauled off to Westville. So his letter goes back to White County Jail. And then by the 9th, somehow somebody makes sure it gets to Carroll Court, thankfully. I don't know what that looked like because it doesn't look like it got put back in the mail. It looks like somebody made sure that letter got there. I mean, is that how?
Yeah, which is probably not the biggest deal in the world that it was hand delivered. Like, thankfully, it did eventually get to where it needed to go.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like,
for a long time, it looks like.
Well, but clearly, I mean, it maybe it never would have, even if somebody didn't take it upon themselves to deliver it for whatever reason, like, yeah, who knows? It's just odd. It's very it's very disturbing to me, given what we now know, like how much time passed, whether it was nefarious or just chaotic or logistical or just what happened, like because of things and stuff. The fact that he's desperately requesting to be appointed counsel on the 31st, and it's not until after, I mean, when did Gull appoint them? Like the 10th? She waited 10 days from when she gets appointed to when she appointed him, his counsel. So 2 fucking weeks go by since he's made it known, or at least since he puts it on paper, like, I'm desperately requesting counsel. That's very scary, considering he was an accused pretrial defendant entitled to fucking public defense. And he had sorry, go ahead. Safekeeping.
Okay, so let's talk about safekeeping motion filed by Sheriff Lazenby. We all know how that went. This is on the 3rd. And then Diener orders Allen, still without counsel, transferred to the DOC on the 3rd. So this letter is still in the mail, like it's in the air. It's somewhere. Either it's being held at White County. He's already said that he doesn't have the ability to hire private counsel. He's already asked for a public defender to be assigned to him, and or anything, any type of assistance. He doesn't know what's going on. He wants information or somebody to help him, because he's obviously disoriented in like everything that's going on. It's clearly going to be a huge change in his life. I don't mean disoriented as in the medical sense, but just in general. I'm sure it's very disorienting. So then Dina recuses himself from the case and sends this case into fucking Mount Doom. Yellow Jacket, what do you think?
So far? Go on, just keep going.
Okay. So
I'll
he
let you know
sends
when I have an outburst.
You got it. Okay, so next up, Diener recuses himself without even knowing whether or not this guy's found an attorney yet. Right? He should know. He's asserted his right. He said he wanted to. He was going to get back to them. I mean, how's he even going to get back to them and tell them these things? they know that this meeting's gonna happen for safekeeping, and he's gonna go to a very dangerous facility. So TTS, that this is an old comment, or is that just IDOC? Yeah, that's the IDOC policy for copying stuff. I know it's a really old comment, so I didn't answer it. We're talking about what county?
Kinda.
What's that?
It's hard to tell what their official policy is, because if you look up on their website, they have all these official policies about legal mail being different from other stuff. They just kind of change what their policies are depending on the hearing they're at, I think.
Yeah, or who their inmate is, probably.
Right.
Okay, and then this was like an all eyes edit. I don't know, maybe. Jerry Holman gives orders to RDC, or no, maybe this is your Yellow Jacket, to put Allen in a cell equipped with a 24-hour CCTV. Now, Jerry Holman, as you all know, I believe he's not Indiana Department of Corrections staff. He's the lead investigator for the Indiana State Police. So he puts him
He
on
also
24
doesn't work at
CCTV.
Carroll County.
No. Or any county. So Westville assigns
He calls the shots, though.
It seems like it. Westville assigns Rick one of the 4 of these camera-equipped cells, and the cell is A107, and he stayed until December 6, 2023. It is a suicide watch cell, although varying timelines for when he was or wasn't on the suicide watch or with suicide watch restrictions and protocols. And then upon his arrival at WCF, Westville Correctional Facility, Allen is placed on suicide watch. And per Prosecutor McClelland's April 2023 motion to subpoena third-party records from Westville, and per various reporting from the July and August 2024 retrial hearing. So he's there. He's in that cell, ordered 24-hour surveillance. USA Libertarian says, also, someone said it was common practice to put new inmates on suicide watch, aka sleep deprivation and torture. Yeah, I think seasoned inmates know.
They know. They know, and I mean, it's for good reason. They don't want to. Oh, did we lose DB now? Hate y'all. So it is for good reason that the suicide watch restrictions and protocols are. I mean, it's like the irony is rich, because these are really high risk people who certainly don't need their life to be any harder, have more punishment if they're actually suicidal. But on the flip side, if you got some sort of comfort when you were on suicide watch, or upgraded treatment or upgraded amenities to help with your mental health, then wouldn't everybody in prison be suicidal? It's kind of a double-edged sword there. So, unfortunately, being on suicide watch in maximum security prison is about the worst possible situation, and every inmate knows that. Pretty unfortunate for someone who actually is having some severe mental health issues, though. Of course, those people shouldn't be at Westville. They should be at one of the approved DOC facilities with state-of-the-art mental health services. Most of the other inmates who are that bad off as Rick are absolutely moved to somewhere like Wabash or Newcastle. I think there's like 4 or 5 different facilities that have really advanced mental health facilities.
Yeah, and USA asked a question here: Is there any study that shows suicide watch actually works? I'll wait.
No.
I think they got to do something, right? Like, what else are they gonna do? This is what they decided to do with inmates that are going through this, and it's just
Tricky. If you got special treatment and, upgraded amenities, wouldn't everybody be saying they're suicidal?
right. And it's a tool. Like they don't want people saying that they're having those issues. So they create a punishment system or a system that it's going to make it so it disincentivizes the disclosure of those thoughts, and so people keep it to themselves, and ends up being a much bigger issue later on. But it's a systemic problem with that type of stuff going on in prison, especially understaffing and having third party mental health professionals that are going between multiple facilities, and the quality of care people are allowed to give, and even the quality of care the mental health professionals that are contracted are allowed to give because of the number of inmates they have to talk to every day. Okay, next up.
I don't see the timeline anymore. Is it up? Do you have it up?
Oh God, you're right. I gotta put it back
Oh
on.
God.
My tab got suspended somehow.
Hey, remind me later. I need a sidebar about a different topic I wanted to ask you about.
Okay. Sounds good. Okay, so November 3rd, continuing here, in DOC Adult Mental Health Order. This is the form 56549 per Bradley Rosie's motion to suppress April 2024. This is an important order that we're going to reference to if you guys love the link for this doc. And then on November 4th, Judge Gull is assigned to the case. As we know, this is 5 days before Mr. Allen's letter is ever going to get read that he's asking for counsel. So he's had a new judge, a new facility, and he still hasn't had any type of representation.
DB, Cleveland says to tighten your mic cord. Do you have a mic cord?
Check. Is this worse?
I don't know. It's just like it's popping a little bit or something. You know why the ladies are here. They just want to hear you talk.
I'm sorry.
Oh, that sounded better. That was nice. Keep going.
That did sound better?
Yeah? It's like every now and then there's just like a pop or a static or something.
Okay, should be good just like that then. Okay, so next up, WC Special Judge again.
Special Judge Francis Skull. Oops. Okay, I think I got the right one. This should do it. Okay, Special Judge Francis Skull is assigned to the case. Never heard of her. Okay, next up, November 8th, 2022. So we're 1 day away from his letter finally getting somewhere. And WCU suicide monitoring starts, potentially. And that's per the Bradley Rosie motion to suppress, April 2024, and in the appendix list of exhibits number 12. Uh-huh. Okay. November 14th, Rosie and Baldwin are appointed by Special Judge Francis Gull. 10 days pass between Gull assuming the case and Gull appointing Allen's public defenders. Then on November 22nd, 2022, the hearing is held in Delphi, unsealing the PCA. The gag order is discussed. Defense requests a bail hearing. Okay, right?
Mm-hmm.
Edgar Allen says, do you have somewhere I could send you something found outside the courthouse, November 26th? Yes. I'll put it in the chat.
Like you want like a physical mailing address? Like you got something physical you found? Or like a paper?
Hey, do you have pieces of paper? What do you have?
I want 100%
Edgar
more
Allen.
information.
No, I was going to give him
100%
my
more.
address.
What do you want, Mr. Allen? Tell me now. Are you gonna send me?
Look at them all, folks.
Probably going to be like it's like a fart in a jar or something.
Hi, Christine. Fart in a jar. I think I have that voice mod somewhere. Where's that? Fart in a jar. Huh.
That's a setting.
Yeah. There's also broken mic and trash mic.
Fart in a jar.
Does it sound bad?
I have the channel. Come out with your hands up. Okay, so Baldwin and
I'm back.
Rosie answer media questions. Okay, so Angela,
Yes.
check this out.
Okay.
Baldwin and Rosie are his public defenders, right?
Yes.
They started on November 22nd. They were appointed and assigned by Senior Judge Francisco.
Earlier than that, though. I think it was like the night. Well, scroll up a little, DB.
Yes, ma'am.
November 14th, they're appointed.
Yes, ma'am.
Which
Think
is
about time. I read it, before this one.
yeah. So that's a long time, though. Still, even from like when was she appointed again? The 3rd or the 4th, and then I don't remember when. And then that letter.
Yeah, 4th.
That letter gets there the 9th, and then he gets his count. I mean, I understand it probably takes a few days. Like it takes a while probably to find qualified public defenders for this kind of case, but that just still feels like a long time. Sorry, did I answer your question? Did you ask me a question, DB?
I forgot. Who cares?
Okay, cool. Yeah, it's fine. Who cares?
Okay, so Baldwin, they say that it has been tough for their client and that he's missing his wife. He's missing a human connection because he, hasn't had a human connection apparently. And it suggests that Alan has already begun experiencing some detrimental physical, psychological, physical, mental, and emotional impacts from solitary confinement.
Can we play that clip?
What clip?
The video of it's short. I made it short. I think that I linked it in one of the documents, but there's a clip of, well, I'll find it later, but I want to play it in a little bit. It's Andy and Brad talking to the media. Yes, that one. Thank you. If it works.
Struggling. Can't hear it. I can't hear anything.
Courtney.
Why is this labeled struggling?
Oh, because they say Rick is struggling. Because I'm always struggling.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That was...
I mean, I can play it later. We found it the other day. And
Yeah, we'll have to play it later.
That's fine. But basically what it is one of the reporters, it's Andy and Brad standing outside of the courtroom in Carroll Circuit Courthouse. And one of the reporters says, they're talking about like, discovery in the case. And one of the reporters said, how's your client doing? And Brad kind of just like shakes his head and like looks at Andy. And Andy says, basically, not verbatim, but he says it's been tough for him. He's struggling. He misses his wife. He misses human connection. So he had been in solitary confinement, essentially, right? At least he'd been segregated since his incarceration. So almost on the 22nd.
Suicide watch from the beginning.
Well, so regardless, though, he's isolated for almost a month now. It's November 22nd. So he's reaching that 30-day period that is kind of like the gold standard of like, do not pass this amount of time in
research says this is when things get really bad.
Yes.
But he didn't just walk into county jail. He didn't just walk into segregation. He walked into suicide watch. So he went there and was put in that pod with a caveman smock.
Right.
A hard Velcro caveman smock. No blanket or like a Velcro ripstop blanket. No books, no tablet, nothing. Like that's what he walked into on day one. Go ahead, play it now.
Doing through all of this.
It's tough. It's tough for him. I mean, we just spent 20, 30 minutes with Rick, and he misses his wife. He misses human connection with people. It's been difficult for him. We do not want to go awry of the judge here. But thank you for asking. Rick is doing not terrifically, but he's staying mentally tough right now.
Can I make a comment? We're gonna be here forever. I'm sorry. I know we're not even like halfway through the timeline, but it also caught my attention that when a reporter asked, "How's your client like doing, like his well-being?" and Andy Baldwin, one of the like first things that comes to him is like, "Oh, I don't want to go awry of the judge." It's just interesting that a question about how Rick is doing, like on a human kind of level, like would make him like, it just makes me wonder if perhaps conversations had been had already between the state and defense and the judge about like information not getting out about anything to do with Rick or his confinement. And to me, that indicated like they are already trying to insulate like Rick's humanity, basically. We don't even want you saying that he's having a hard time. Like, and that has nothing to do with discovery. It has nothing to do with prejudicing anybody. Like, it was just very interesting to me to watch that like a year and a half later. Anyway, sorry.
Christine asked, I cannot post a video in the chat. Where could you send the link? I'll send the link out, or the RNM Twitter will post it. Okay, next thing, go ahead.
Oh, you want me to go?
I think she's frozen. Okay, yeah, you can go.
You want me to go? You want to take a break
Sure.
from reading?
Yeah.
All right, January 1st-ish, the defense begins to notice Alan's deteriorating physical condition. It's pretty fast. On February 1st-ish, the defense works to secure a bed for Alan at Cass County Jail. Ed Schroeder, the sheriff there, and McLeland were in agreement with the move. And then so these yellow parts, we've started adding in some context from the various hearings in the transcripts. So per Dr. Wallace's testimony a couple weeks ago, Alan took God into his heart. And upon intake, he was not religious.
That's strange. I mean, they say you could find a lot of things in prison. One of them, the most common things is religion, right? So, I mean, what else does he have? He's getting a book about a Holocaust survivor and probably the Holy Bible. And there's really, I mean, what else?
There is another factor going on here, and we can get into that later. But based on all of the testimony and all of the timelines put together, we know that Rick was on suicide watch when he was first admitted into Westville until whenever. And then per Gallipo, he was not on suicide watch the first couple of months, but he had suicide companions for the first several months, which is a different tangent I'll probably go on later. But so the thing is, the suicide companions, they are part of DOC's Plus program, and you can look that up and read about it. But the Plus program is it's a community. They all have similar living, like they live together in a certain area of the prison. It's a religious based initiative. They do lots of different things. They do like end of life companionship for terminally ill inmates. But as far as being a companion for Rick, there's only two things that they perform companion duties for. That is suicide companions and compassion companions, which is end of life, terminally ill inmates. They don't just sit around for administrative observation. They don't just sit outside a cell of a high profile inmate. They are strictly stationed with another inmate for suicide watch, which is interesting because Gallipo said he wasn't on suicide watch, which is quite strange. But it's interesting that he took God into his heart when 4 months earlier he wasn't a religious person, and he had these companions that were supposed to not talk to him, but also definitely were talking to him. So anyways, we can go on.
Why were they not supposed to be talking to him?
That's against the rules. When you're a suicide companion, you're not supposed to speak to them at all. You're supposed to log notes, observe, watch, make sure they don't die. They are completely restricted from engaging in conversation, and especially asking them about their charges or anything else.
And we're not even sure when the actual suicide companions for sure started, right? We're thinking it's sometime around this time, but
The first several months.
the first several months. So he was already there for several months, right? So
And he was not on suicide watch for the first several months. Those two
Right.
things were said by Gallipo in the same testimony at the June safekeeping hearing.
seems
I mean, a page apart.
okay. So then we stopped at February.
You can go if you want to go to shortly before March 24th.
Okay, so shortly before March 24th, 2023, the defense is notified that CCSO has declined the request to have Allen moved out of IDOC and into Cass County Jail, despite no objection from Cass County Sheriff or Prosecutor McClelland. Okay, so then on March 24th, defense meets with Allen at WCF and provides optimistic news about his case. Allen was polite, inquisitive about the information, and thankful. The defense notes, deteriorating physical condition has been observed by counsel dating back to the beginning of the new year. Defense delivers nearly 1,000 pages of police reports and other discovery for Allen. True Grit Crime says someone gave him a Bible at some point. Did we have that in a statement from somebody?
I think it's just a part of the cells. I think that's what the cell is equipped with. Your bed, your toilet,
The Holy
your
Bible. Mandy Ray says, oh, the inmate companions are paid not to speak and only observe, you say. Yes, very curious.
It is a job. They do get paid to do that. And it also can earn you time cuts.
And Cleveland Rock says they did whatever they wanted under the cover of safekeeping. He should never have been treated like a convicted murderer. Right. Sonic says, I'd never found myself making confessions in a similar situation as such, but what if his confessions were a consequence of a tough prison system where your outlaw legacy is an only means to respect? Well, it's a great point. You wouldn't think that if a prison system is tough and if there are consequences of being inside of a prison system, inherently, to me, it seems though you're suggesting some type of punishment. And punishment is unconstitutional, plus it's for a crime, a felony. And you are convicted to serve state time. So it's just, to me, seems like being put in a situation, although it may be for safekeeping, and I think that other people have experienced this, but having a system that exists to punish offenders, even though it shouldn't necessarily exist to punish offenders, once you put a pretrial inmate in there, it's going to have whatever effect the system has on everybody on that pretrial inmate. So his consequences, or the consequences he faced, if the consequences are these confessions, then you have to ask yourself, what were the consequences that were known at the time, or what was the goal at the time that he was put into safekeeping? To keep him safe? I don't know.
He started getting taunted back in December. That was, we probably should add that in here, but part of the various testimonies we heard was that starting in December of 2022, he told Dr. Walla that he was being treated bad, and he
Well,
told her he didn't like the suicide companions, and she agreed with him. And people were messing with him, taunting him, screaming, from all the nearby cells, kill yourself, like just harassing him nonstop.
and I think if he's in White County Jail and he doesn't know that he has to put the legal mail or has to declare something as legal mail, I mean, are these prisoners really going out of their way to help him? Or are they probably not being that nice to him? Somebody knows that he should mark that as legal mail, right? Somebody's wondering what that dude's up to. I mean, I can imagine people are going out of their way to be kind to him, given his allegations.
Who would he have even interacted with, do you think, though, at when he wrote that? By then, I mean, he probably would have interacted with like one of the 3, I guess, guards employed at the jail. And I guess that's it, right?
I don't know.
I don't know.
It definitely seems like somebody was coaching him on what he needs to say. I mean, I wouldn't have known what to say in that letter.
Yeah, I think he had an idea of some kind, but maybe, him talking to an attorney too, and they said, this is what you need to do, just some free advice for you.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm not gonna give you actual advice, but I can tell you that you probably just need to write the judge yourself.
Yeah.
And he thought maybe that meant sending them a letter to the Carroll County Court. Okay.
It's just kind of weird. It's just, he was probably in fucking no man's land, honestly. Like, I don't know what the fuck to do. I don't know who to contact. I don't know who to call. I guess I'll write to the court. That makes sense. I guess, yeah.
Oh, nice. Tell me so. What's up? Okay, so then on April 1st, Ari is placed on suicide watch per Warden Gallipo's testimony, 7/31/24 at that hearing. And April 3rd, 2023, the defense documents still have not been provided to Allen, even though on the 24th, they dropped him off nearly 1,000 pages of police reports. Obviously, he wasn't allowed to go to the law library, the legal library, correct? I would imagine that, I mean, if they're not taking him to go do basic things, they probably have to have a 2-person escort. They probably have to have inmates out of the way. It's probably quite a situation to escort him around the prison. And so I would imagine one of the reasons that he is in solitary confinement, even if he wasn't at any harm of harming himself or being harmed, is that they're gonna have to take precautions that could be quite expensive, quite costly in time, quite costly in equipment. And so I would imagine they want him to move very little. Hi, women doing impossible things.
Just so
Safekeeping, what a
y'all know,
freaking job.
this entire period from about March 24th to mid-April is my white whale right now. I've just been in an absolute hole trying to make sense of a million conflicting statements about when he was or wasn't on suicide watch, when he did or didn't have suicide companions, when he received his fucking legal paperwork, the 1,000 pages of documents that the defense left on March 24th, because there's about 10 different stories for that and none of them add up. And then when and why the suicide companions were replaced with guards. And I think we have some notes at the very bottom of this we'll go through because the stories are all over the place. Go on.
I'm gonna tap in. So, because I want to make sure that we get to the IPass stuff. So, just kind of highlighting like important stuff. So he's put on suicide watch. I think the takeaway that we're trying to basically give y'all is nobody knows exactly when he was put on suicide watch, taken off suicide watch, when companions were put outside his cell, when they were removed and replaced with guards, how long he had companions. Nobody has any idea what the actual definitive timeline looks like. Not because the information and dates have not been stated in motions and provided, but because we have about 5 to 10 different versions of when things happened, why they happened, what happened, and all of these different versions are coming from the state, from McClelland, from Walla, from the warden, and from the defense. So, like, who has the right info here? I don't know. And I think the point is, like, none of this is complicated.
They have very easy answers.
Yeah.
What day did you give him the 1,000 pages that were left on the 24th? What day did that happen? That is a clear-cut answer.
Yeah. So we don't know. And
what day did you find a guard and tell them your job now is to sit outside his cell 24/7? Like,
yeah.
You know when that happened. It's documented. You have a date. But the state, nobody from the state or the state's witnesses will give a direct answer to that question.
They all have different versions.
They say, it was the day after we gave him his legal paperwork. And then in the same breath, Gallipo will say, it was when he started behaving strangely. Which is it?
Right. We don't know, and we probably won't know until something, I don't know, until it gets clarified, and it probably won't. So that's when we talk about IPass in a few, that will become even more like unacceptable. But so let's go. Can we scroll down a little? Because I think that most people know about that. The defense files the emergency motion. The inmate letter, Dr. Walla. Okay, so by the 12th, Alan is banging his head. I think we went through most of this last time. So I think let's just go to the bottom where Courtney added all that stuff.
Screen keeps going. I think it's me. It's me. Ignore me.
Is this what you're talking about?
Yeah. So actually, no. Keep going. Okay. This is where Courtney started to add her notes. So we don't know what happened at that April 14th hearing where they discussed putting Rick on involuntary medication and or discussed the appropriateness of his setting in DOC. We just know that the hearing was held on the 14th. We found out from Walla that they did, in fact, decide to start him on involuntary antipsychotic medication. And they obviously determined that his setting was appropriate, which is fucking baffling because Westville is not even one of the DOC facilities that is mental health equipped. And even if he were at one of those facilities that were mental health equipped, like Newcastle, Wabash, and I think Pendleton is one of the third one that like employed some of these policies after the fact, he needed to go to a psych ward is what essentially should have happened. They should have determined, can he stay here with us? Does he need to go to Wabash or Pendleton or Newcastle where there's specialized, programs and resources and procedures to equip to handle somebody who's gravely ill. Like they decided to involuntarily medicate him, but that he didn't need to go anywhere else.
Well, the really sick part about this is on the stand, Walla acts like, I mean, we had this conversation, blah, blah, blah. You know, basically the safekeeping order trumped everything.
Right.
Which is great. That's fine, whatever. The safekeeping order was that the Indiana Department of Corrections can send him fucking anywhere they want, that they deem appropriate, that they deem can take care of the needs he has. So Wabash and Pendleton and Newcastle are all DOC facilities. He could have gone to any of those, and he is still 110% being provided for under the safekeeping order. Somebody's made the conscious decision, no, we really want to keep him here.
Yeah, it's baffling. They probably eventually need to explain that decision and why and how and fucking like what. So anyway, they start the Haldol injections, nightly oral and weekly injection. Nick's like, he's great, he's fine. Nick requests the records. Okay, can you? I don't know that I don't think I can scroll, DB. Thank you. So this is Nick McClelland's version of events. On April 14th, Richard Allen was evaluated by 2 psychiatrists and 1 psychologist to discuss his turn in behavior and whether or not there was a need for involuntary medication. The panel would also discuss moving Richard Allen to a different facility that had a psychiatric unit. So Westville doesn't even have a psychiatric unit, and this man's been psychotic for 3 months. Anyway. From that meeting, it was determined that Richard Allen did not need involuntary medication and that he did not need to be moved to another facility. Since that meeting, Richard Allen has begun to eat again and begun to sleep. His behavior has begun to return to what it was prior to making the admission on April 3rd. We know that's not true because he's saying that Rick is doing better on April 20th, but we also know that Rick was in a steady severe decline because all through April he's self-harming, he's engaging in like odd bizarre behaviors, he can't take care of his hygiene, he's not sleeping or eating. Like none of this statement, first of all, is true from what we've now learned from Walla, but also, and I'm going to show y'all in a second, Nick should not know any of this. Like, this is not information that the prosecutor should be privy to. This is like entirely confidential and inappropriate for Nick. First of all, Nick had way too many details about that hearing. And second of all, he had he was not entitled to know anything about what's going on with Rick, or that hearing is so protected. And I wonder if it might have something to do with the crazy confidentiality breach that's occurred, that they can't even like mention it or even look at it at a hearing now. Like, how many attorneys were with Walla? Like 3 or 4?
Well, you'll see in a minute. That's one of the reasons they gave. That's the reason the defense gave.
Okay.
For why the guards replaced the companions.
Okay. So anyway, moving on.
Hi, Heather Brown.
Hi, Heather. Okay, here it is, court. April 22nd is when he gets his paperwork.
Maybe.
I think it's in a motion. I have to find it. And obviously I didn't link it, but I know that I read it somewhere like tangible, like not on Facebook, not on a blog, not on a newspaper. Why are you saying no?
Because that's what I've been searching for days. Gallipo said, the only reason I put that date down is because I made a note at the hearing that Gallipo made a third reason why guards replace companions and said it was for, confidentiality and liability reasons, because we put guards instead of companions the day after he got his legal paperwork.
Right.
He also said, I wrote that down. It's what I heard, and I've been trying to find somebody to corroborate that for me.
The date you mean? Okay, then that makes sense.
He at the hearing, I wrote down, he gave a date for when the guards. Never mind, just forget it.
Well, this is the thing. This has been our like nightmare for the past few weeks, is trying to parse through what is stated explicitly in a sworn, affidavit or motion, what is said on the stand in a sworn testimony. Like, all of these people are swearing that what they're saying is true and accurate, and they're all saying different things. So
okay, I remember it. I remember now. It's because I wrote down, and I've been trying to find somebody to corroborate it for me, because I'm starting to second guess myself. Like, did I hear this wrong? It was written down that I wrote down that guards replaced companions the day after he received all of his legal paperwork. And then in a separate question, I screwed it up again. Just
it's
go
fine.
on.
We'll clarify it eventually.
I've been like trying to find these exact answers for like 5 days now, because it's driving me crazy, and I can't even keep it straight anymore. Just
It's okay. It's
ignore
fine.
me.
Well, but again, like, that's the whole point. It's like none of this is clear. It's all very confusing, and these are not like little issues. Like, oh, he didn't get his mail, which is not a little issue, but like, these are not little things. Like, oh, his commissary didn't go through. Like, these are constitutional and civil rights issues that federal courts take very fucking seriously. And if DB still is planning, I mean, there's like reasons that these like very clear policies exist, because IAC has gotten their asses handed to them through litigation for violating all, like, it's just a crazy situation.
Oh, now that you scroll down, I see it. I made notes. So in June of 2023, Gallipo was asked, what flipped the switch with his behavior? When did he start acting strange? Gallipo says, well, we switched from suicide companions to guards the day after he received his legal paperwork. He didn't say a date he received his paperwork. He just said that's when we switched, but he never stated a date. Then a couple of weeks ago at this other hearing, he said, replace suicide companions with guards on April 23rd. And that struck me as so like, what? That I've actually been trying to find somebody else who was there until we get the transcripts to confirm that they wrote that down too. But I can't find anybody yet who has written down a date. So, I mean, I had to piece together info from the hearings a few weeks ago, and then info from the June hearing to be like, okay, that means April 22nd, right? Maybe. Anyways.
Okay. So then, can you scroll, please, DB? Thank you, sir. This is bad, yeah. So Mullen goes to Westville to interview one of the companions in May. Just like, so what?
Why did he know? Why did he know?
Exactly. So the question that it seems Rosie was really trying to get to the bottom of, at least as he could, with the objections and relevance, blah blah. Like,
So the suicide companion, the log sheets that they fill out when they're stationed outside someone's cell, those go to mental health staff. That goes to Dr. Walla. They are suicide companions, and they are doing a job that assists the psychologists and mental health behaviorists, the personnel that works at the facility, to provide them with information when they can't have eyes on them. that those log sheets, then any notes, anything he said, anything he did, any conversations they had, what they weren't supposed to have, is put on a log sheet and given to Dr. Walla. That's how did it get to investigators?
Yeah, it shouldn't have, is the answer.
That's mental health information.
It never should have. It shouldn't have. And it seems like that's one of the things the defense was trying to get to the bottom of.
Hi, Peggy.
Hi, Peggy. Okay.
Comment from All I says the warden contradicted himself and Nick McClelland so many times at the June 2023 hearing. Parsing his testimony is frustrating as fuck. True. It's like you have to figure out how all of these things like interlock with one another, but also that would be normally like a normal level of difficulty. But then when you add the different levels of reliability you have to assign each statement, it just makes it nearly impossible to get stuff to line up, really.
Yeah.
You know, if
And
anybody
yes,
in
he
my
was
life,
triggered by Miranda.
if anybody in my life, when I'm asking them a very direct question about when did something happen, and I know this is documented and easily identifiable, and the story changes 10 different times, do you know what that makes me think? It makes me think that they are hiding something and lying.
Yeah.
You know what it wouldn't make you? The warden of a major institution.
Sure wouldn't.
So, Mullen, with awareness of suicide companions and what they logged about Rick, goes to WCU to interview Lacey Patton and Jason Elliott. He soon has these interviews transcribed. December 6th, Mr. Allen was transferred from Westville Correctional Facility to Wabash Valley Correctional Facility per Attorney General Todd Rokita, notice of the court transferring Mr. Allen.
We still don't know why.
Jenny asks, didn't Walla enter notes into the system everybody had access to?
I mean, no, nobody should have had access to that. The people that should have had access to that would include internal affairs.
But I don't even think internal affairs would have like blanket access to like clinical notes. Like you, like
they would have no reason. Like, I mean, it's probably in a system that they can look up, but they would have no reason to. Like, it's just there in the event that they need it for litigation purposes or whatever.
I mean, Centurion would be the owner of the records, and the clinicians would have to log into their electronic medical record system to log the notes, I imagine, since the providers are all contracted. So it's not like they're DOC employees. It's not like DOC has like their own electronic like medical records. So really the only people that would have unfettered direct access to the medical and mental health records would be the providers themselves, I imagine, and then internal affairs could probably
but I mean,
right,
because this ties into what they were asked, what Gallipo, the lady from IA, the investigator Maps, and Walla were all asked, because remember, this is how she looked up information about Keegan Klein.
But she wasn't looking up his medical records, though, I didn't think.
She was looking up anything and everything that they have logged about him since he's been there, since before, his intake records.
But you mean Walla?
Yes.
Right, but she's a provider, though. Like I don't think that like the well, maybe the warden, but like could like
this was the exact question that Maps was asked and the warden was asked. Maps was asked who has access to this kind of stuff. They asked Maps, if you wanted to look up information about an inmate in Pendleton, could you do that? If you wanted to find all kinds of sensitive info, do you have a system? She's like, yeah, it's called Delta or whatever it's called, this system that they have. And they asked her who has access to this system. She said mental health professionals, internal affairs, and the wardens, all wardens. Now, they also don't have any reason to be accessing those things, and they most certainly are not for law enforcement without a subpoena that is signed by a judge. That's for damn sure.
Right. So, Suicide Watch. Okay, let's. This is just more of the same, like trying to get clarity on the suicide question, which I don't even want to even touch it anymore because it's like just infuriating, and I don't think we're going to get an answer tonight because it's like,
no, there's no answer. They're lying.
Yeah.
Period.
Right. So Suicide Watch sucks. It sucks more than solitary. And the point is that he was already in solitary for the entirety. There's never been a single second that he's not been held in solitary in segregation, which is the same fucking thing, in one of 4 cells in the whole facility that has 24/7 video monitoring. And he's also at various times for months at a time been on Suicide Watch, which is an even more restrictive, more terrible situation. So this guy's stay fucking blows. It has just been awful the whole time. So, okay, keep going, DB. More legal paperwork. Yeah, keep going.
Yeah, this is just, it's just that there's nothing to put together. It's just all the conflicting statements. If you go down, there was one kind of interesting thing I added in there. Keep going. Keep going. A little more. More. Okay, where that's bold, you can go down. No, go back. There you go. So this is something I at least put together, the reasons why suicide companions were replaced with guards. And here's all the various statements. Gallipo, alluding to what I guess is April 13th, it was triggered by bizarre behavior and the feces thing was mentioned. I hate even talking about that. Then also it was triggered by behavior after Rick confessed to his wife on April 3rd due to the paperwork that he received. That comes from Nick. We also have a statement that it was triggered by Alan receiving legal mail and companions might access it. So that's what Gallipo said a couple of weeks ago. And that date might be April 3rd, before April 3rd, after April 3rd, on April 13th, or on April 23rd, depending on the testimony. Or it was triggered by the knowledge that the companions were, in fact, violating the rules of not speaking to Rick, and then they were also gossiping to what they learned, what they saw, what they logged to other inmates. Those inmates were getting on the phone with their families and telling their families about it. And that is from a defense filing. And the only thing the defense could piece together was this was sometime in early April. They don't even know. Even though there's a human being out there who was told your job now is to sit outside his cell the entire time. Like, this is an easily identifiable date, yet nobody can pull it out of their ass.
Let's keep going.
Keep going.
Yeah, keep going. I'm gonna bang my head against something if we get like one more version. So when Walla testified that she was present for at least one of his alleged 60+ confessions made over the course of 2 months while being held. The alleged confessions were recorded through video ops. Okay, the alleged confessions were recorded through video observation of Alan. How? Because they have been adamant that it's just video. It's not audio. It's just video. Yes, it's 24/7. We're recording him in the fucking shower, but it's just audio, or it's just video.
The one that they follow him around with, it's all audio.
Just video. So how the fuck do you have incriminating statements from Richard Allen through video recording? Get fucked. Phone recordings with family or through door sheets maintained by suicide companions or guards keeping watch over Allen in his cell. Problematic. I think I'm done with this document, DB. And if you need to go, you can. I can show the rest.
Ladies,
Yeah, bye.
it's been a pleasure.
You're the best. Thank you so much. So the next one. Google. I should have done this beforehand. All right. So the other thing that we wanted to just kind of like talk about a little bit is that there's very specific reasons that Rosie was asking Walla the questions that he was asking her at the hearing. And I don't think that all of them really had to just do with getting the confessions suppressed. I think that they are so in October of last year, I think it was October, Rosie filed a civil, like a notice, a civil notice that he basically was putting DOC on notice that like Rick Allen is reserving his right to sue you and civilly for like I forget, I don't know how to say
Tortoises.
it. For tortoises, for injury that he has suffered as a result of like either negligence or overt acts on your part. So in civil cases, you have a certain amount of time before you have to put the other party on notice, and then you can, you reserve your right to sue them in the future, right? So in this case, when the criminal cases, they see it through. I imagine that Rosie did that because of the infinite number of constitutional human rights, personal, violations that his client was being subjected to that nobody was really doing anything to stop. So that really pissed Gull off. She said that was a conflict, that his criminal defense attorney filed a civil notice against DOC, which is bananas. And there's a whole section in the original action that Kara and Mark did that's basically like, she didn't like that he did that, but that's because she's biased. Like that was a totally appropriate, responsible, ethical thing for this guy's defense attorney to do, whose job is to preserve his constitutional rights and protect his interests. I.e., if this guy gets out of here and he is damaged and injured because of y'all, like we'll talk then, basically. Like you need to, I don't know, like, I don't know. It doesn't matter. But the other reason that Rosie was asking a lot of questions and the origin of a lot of like the terms and definitions that he was using actually came from, so in 2008, a group of inmates, convicted prisoners at various correctional facilities throughout the state of Indiana kind of came together and filed with the assistance of the Indiana
Advocacy Services
Agency, which is it's like an ACLU for inmates, prisoners, incarcerated persons. And this advocacy group entity filed a class action suit against Indiana Department of Corrections and the commissioner at the time of IDOC in 2008 is when this was initiated. And the judge approved it. It's class action. So any prisoner in the future and in the current and the past is like covered under this, including the
it's a really big deal.
Yeah. So that lawsuit kind of like went through the legal channels, including a jury. I believe it went before a jury. And I don't know if it was like what kind of jury trial, but I know that it was convened and went before a jury. And then what ultimately happened was they agreed to a stipulated settlement agreement, which basically said, okay, IDOC will like comply or like work with you and give you what you want or whatever. And so what they did was they established a agreement where starting March 2016, I think was the start date of it. And I'll pull it up in a second. I just don't want to lose my train of thought. Basically, the DOC had to implement and maintain a fuck ton of policies and procedures, and it gave them like parameters to deal with inmates who are severely mentally ill. Oh, Courtney, I think you froze. And that severely mentally ill definition is important because Rosie brought it up a bunch of times in the hearings most recently. And it has a really specific definition for inmates in the Department of Correction. And I'm going to try and find it now. I sent DB away like too soon. Hold on one sec. Okay. Here we go. Can everyone? Yeah, you can see this. So this is just a summary. I kind of explained it, but this is a much better explanation than what I just gave. And this is kind of like, it's like not directly relevant to the homicides, but it's like super important as it relates to Rick and what's going on in this case. So this stipulation, this agreement, this lawsuit, basically it deals with the serious mistreatment of mentally ill prisoners in isolated conditions. So specifically deals with isolation and segregation. Lacking adequate mental health care, which the Department of Correction consistently denied, and the court certified this as a class action suit in 2010, encompassing all current and future mentally ill prisoners in the Department of Corrections who are housed in similar harsh conditions. So the settlement and stipulation, after a series of legal proceedings, including, a bench trial, not a jury trial, a bench trial before the judge, the parties entered into a settlement agreement. This agreement stipulates improvements in housing and mental health care for prisoners and includes definitions of seriously mentally ill prisoners, expanding on earlier decisions. So per the 2012 court rulings, Department of Corrections committed to enhancing mental health services, including at least 10 hours a week of therapeutic programming for affected prisoners. Several facilities, such as Newcastle Psychiatric Facility, Pendleton Treatment Unit, have been established or enhanced to provide appropriate care. The conditions and monitoring of compliance. So when you enter into a settlement agreement, you have to comply by and follow the guidelines that are agreed upon between the parties. Otherwise, you're out of compliance and the agreement basically is null and void, and your settlement kind of like goes away. And I mean, it's just not good. There's major consequence for that. So it's a big deal to not abide by a stipulated settlement agreement. So much of a big deal, in fact, that the DOC literally established entirely new novel treatment units and protocols on a state level so that they could be in compliance with this lawsuit and these demands and these requirements. So the agreement also details the ongoing obligations of the Department of Corrections to maintain staffing levels, to provide adequate mental health treatment, and to ensure compliance with the settlement terms. Regular reviews and reports are mandated to monitor the compliance with the agreement. So part of this agreement was that there would be accountability and oversight. The IPass, the advocacy group, would be able to basically, they would be provided regular reviews and reports from DOC to ensure that they are actually doing what they say that they are going to do and what they're supposed to do. The duration and termination of the agreement. So this agreement, they set to remain in effect for 3 years from the approval date, and it could be extended as much as many times as they wanted to. The document outlines procedures for potential non-compliance issues, and this is important. This part is really important. It extends plaintiffs' rights to monitor the implementation of the agreement, meaning the plaintiffs, i.e., these are prisoners, inmates, convicted inmates. It gives them the right to also monitor whether or not these policies and procedures and agreements are being upheld by the Department of Correction. That's a huge part of it, giving the prisoners who are most impacted by these violations like some agency to actually view, first of all, bear witness to whether or not compliance exists throughout, and then also gives them recourse for what to do if DOC falls out of compliance or is not doing what they say they're going to do. So it started on March 24th, 2016 was the official start date of this agreement. And it was a 3-year agreement. Like I said, they could extend it. So this fucking sucks. So the end date was April 13th, 2023. The Department of Corrections agreed once to extend it, but they declined to maintain the agreement after April 2023, despite the advocacy group expressing their preference. Obviously, they couldn't force them because they had an agreement. But the advocacy group expressed explicitly, we really think that this needs to stay in place. We would prefer that it be extended again, but we can't force you to. And as a result of that, because that was part of the agreement, they could terminate it after the 3 years was over. The settlement agreement expired April 13th, 2023, and the case was dismissed without prejudice, which means all of that goes away. Now, DOC ideally, and I'm sure would say well, we intend to just maintain this, so this written hard kind of concrete agreement is not necessary anymore because this is just part of, we've implemented this. It's part of our policies and procedures now, and we're good. Don't worry. We got it. We're not going to fall out of compliance. Get out of our prison. Get out of our fucking hair. And thanks for playing by. So there's a reason that this is highlighted, because if y'all will remember, April 13th, 2023 is an important date in Rick Allen's journey through DOC. Because, and this is not a conspiracy theory. I'm not doing the thing where I'm oh my God, they planned all of this and it's all a fucking conspiracy. It just is really unsettling and it sucks. The implications of this suck. So I'm pulling up the timeline again really fast. Nope, this one. So if we scroll down to April, where is it? Whoop. Fuck. Okay. April 13th. So on April 12th, Rick is banging his head. He's self-harming. He's critically, or not critically, gravely ill. So the Indiana Protection and Advocacy Services Commission, so that's IPass, is set to expire. The date that the IPass stipulated settlement agreement expired and went away forever and the case was dismissed is the same date that WALA determined that Rick was experiencing grave disability and an involuntary medication and placement hearing was scheduled for the following day. So on the 13th of April, per Dr. Walla's notes on Rick Allen, grave disability, consuming feces, considering involuntary medication injections, and hearing about involuntary medication is scheduled. And then on 4/14, the next day, the day after the settlement agreement expires, a hearing to determine whether or not Rick needs to be given involuntary medication is held, and it's determined he does need involuntary medication, but he doesn't need to be moved. Here's why that fucking blows. Because if this agreement had still been in place as it was 24 hours prior, we would have seen I hope this is making sense. And I don't want to like get too into the weeds with it, but like it seems quite important to me.
There's a very important part of the stipulations they were following that
Yes.
they didn't have to follow anymore starting on April 14th.
So I just and I'll share all of these because they're important and I think everyone should know about them. But
The part about the SMI.
Yep, I'm fine. There's a couple things actually that I want to highlight here. So, oh, actually, I'm showing the wrong one. Hold on. Here you go. So this is the actual like agreement, the stipulated settlement agreement, like the full text of it. It's really long. I'm not gonna go through it, but there's a part where it talks about what a severely mentally ill inmate prisoner means. So the court defined seriously mentally ill prisoners as prisoners with current diagnoses or oh wait, this is an old one, I'm sorry. They expand upon it. Okay. Prisoners determined to have a current diagnosis or recent significant history of schizophrenia, delusional disorder, schizophreniform disorder, schizoaffective disorder, brief psychotic disorder, substance-induced psychosis disorder, excluding intoxication and withdrawal, undifferentiated psychotic disorder, and bipolar 1 or 2 disorders. B, prisoners diagnosed with any other validated mental illness that is clinically severe based on evidence-based standards and that results in significant functional impairment, and or prisoners diagnosed with an intellectual or developmental disability or other cognitive disorder that results in a significant functional impairment. As used above, significant functional impairment includes one of the following as determined. So basically talks about what, it just further expands on that definition, but it talks about inability to engage in activities of daily living, including eating, grooming and or personal hygiene, maintenance of housing area, participation in recreation, and ambulation. And the prisoners demonstrated a pervasive pattern of dysfunctional or disruptive social interactions, bizarre or disruptive behavior as a result of mental illness.
And Dr. Walla was asked directly, did Rick meet the criteria for serious mental illness? And Dr. Walla said, no doubt. Absolutely.
Right.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
She logged it. She noted it. She diagnosed him as being in a state of stress-induced psychosis.
Yes. The part that I want to so this is the most important part of the agreement. I think I might have skipped one. Hold on. Sorry. Nope, I didn't. Never mind. Okay. The DOC agrees that it will maintain sufficient staff to manage the mental health units noted below and to identify seriously mentally ill prisoners and to divert them from placement in segregated or restrictive housing to keep with considerations of safety and security. And then while not agreeing with the conclusions of the court in its December entry, or that the following is mandated by the U.S. state's constitution and subject to the 30-day provision. So the DOC, they're like, even though the DOC doesn't agree with any of this, they do agree that A, no seriously mentally ill prisoners shall be placed in segregation or restrictive housing, including protective custody, if they are known to be seriously mentally ill prior to such placement. Or B, if a prisoner in segregation and restrictive housing, including protective custody, is found to be or becomes seriously mentally ill subsequent to such placement, the prisoner shall be removed at earliest opportunity and placed in an appropriate placement where his or her mental illness can be addressed. They didn't have to do that anymore as of April 14th, 2023, when a hearing was held to determine if Rick Allen needed to be moved out of fucking Westville that doesn't even have a specialized psych department or capacity to handle a mentally ill prisoner, out of Westville into one of the other DOC facilities that is more equipped, or into a fucking medical or psych ward, which would be
Isn't that something?
Yeah. So that's gross. Obviously, I'm not implying or suggesting that Rick Allen is the reason that they declined to extend that agreement but it certainly benefited the state of Indiana, and it certainly benefited Nick McClelland and DOC and Jerry Holman and all of the people who were personally invested in keeping Rick Allen at Westville Correctional Facility in segregated, isolated, restrictive housing.
This is depravity.
Yes.
Period.
100%.
This is not safekeeping. This is not what any pretrial defendant in this country does or should experience.
Now, something that Walla testified to several times in different ways and different words at the hearing court from what you told us is that she's like, I don't agree with it, but I can't do anything about it. I didn't agree with the decision, but it's out of my hands. It's above my head. They don't listen to me. I can only do if none of it is my fucking, they won't listen to me. I have no authority or whatever. That's not fucking true. Whether she just misrepresented the amount of authority that she had, or she's just ignorant to it, or they just violate, and disregard it, who knows? But that's just not factual.
She has been in charge.
She's in charge.
Countless inmate transfers. We know that because there's a billion lawsuits out there that name her or the warden or various other people. And while that issue is not the focus of the lawsuit that was filed, that almost always gets denied, on its face because it's silly to begin with. Yeah. Somewhere in those documents, there's something mentioned about her authorizing a transfer to Wabash or Pendleton or one of these other mental health approved facilities.
She is the entity that makes that.
Personally does it. She makes the call. Yes. Now, did she make that call and get overridden? Possibly, because it was the hearing we can't speak of. There was attorneys there. I think one of them might have been from the DA's office, or the you know what I'm saying? Not the DA, the
AG.
AG. I think one of them was from the AG's office. I think one of them was from Centurion. She had lawyers there, and she mentioned twice during the hearings that she wasn't supposed to talk about the April 14th hearing.
Okay, so the opinion of a mental health staff concerning the mental health needs of a prisoner will be honored unless there are real and substantial security or safety concerns noted. The decision shall be recorded. This is the part that really gets me. The decision, one way or another, whether he stays or goes or whatever, the decision shall be recorded in the prisoner's permanent record. The DOC shall attempt to resolve any of the exceptional circumstances so that the prisoner can be removed from segregated and restricted housing at the earliest possible opportunity. We don't want severely mentally ill prisoners in segregated restrictive housing under any fucking goddamn circumstance ever. And if there is some kind of serious exceptional circumstance that makes it necessary, like, then we're gonna resolve it fucking lickety split so that we can get this severely mentally ill person out of restricted housing. Like, it's never meant to be something that you just an indefinite, oh, because this is an exceptional case. No, the fuck it's not. Like, I'm so tired of hearing how exceptional the fucking Delphi murders case is. You know how many fucking children have been murdered over the course of fucking history, and how many arrests and successful prosecutions of the murderer or not have occurred? Like, this is not novel. It's not special. It's not brand fucking new. And the people that are in charge, that are making a fuck ton of money or have a fuck ton of power, like, they're in those positions because they know how to fucking handle exceptional situations. So Nick McClelland saying that this is an exceptional situation and we need to keep everything sealed, Jerry Holman and Mullen backing him up, and Goal blanket signing off on everything that they say, is so fucking stupid.
It's exceptionally corrupt, period. That's all that's exceptional about this case. It's
Period.
exceptionally, the investigation and the people charged with the investigation are exceptionally fucked in the head. That's all that's all that's unique about this situation.
They're probably the most fucked in the head group of individuals, and I'm supposed to be less inflammatory, but like, I feel like this is actually pretty tame. They're the most fucked individuals that I've actually ever encountered. Like, they are the super villains. It's not.
They are so fucked in the head. They have other highly respected police chiefs, former detectives, former FBI task force members volunteering to come there and be witnesses for the defense.
Right.
Because they are so impassioned about the work they did and the things they saw and the questions they have right now. Like, do you very often see exceptional high-profile cases where many members of law enforcement are jumping to be defensive witnesses? That's exceptional. That's unique.
Yeah. It's exceptional and unique that the Supreme Court of Indiana agrees to hear an original action, a writ of mandamus, for a case that's being currently adjudicated, and that they will reinstate.
That's unique.
That's pretty exceptional. It's pretty exceptional to
pretty exceptional to file 4 motions for a Franks hearing
and for
over a period of a year and a half.
And for a judge to deny every single one without a hearing, which, by the way, I keep saying this, but like, the burden to get a Franks hearing is not that motherfucking high. Like,
they blew it out of the water.
It's nondescript, right? It's open to interpretation. Like a lot of things with law, it's infuriating, but like, that's why you have case law and precedent and past examples to pull from. There have been cases that have been like situations that have been warranted and been granted Franks hearings that were a fucking fraction of what we saw and what the state has admitted to. It's not even like they're saying that, oh, Liggett never said that. They're saying, no, he did, but like, he didn't mean it. And it's,
or they're saying they say he did, but the probable cause still existed even if you removed that.
But that's not
this is widely accepted by any legal professional out there as the weakest probable cause for an arrest that most professionals have ever seen. It is so questionable.
Not the only.
It's so questionable, but then to find out that multiple things in that weak ass bullshit probable cause were fabricated and intentionally, recklessly changed and altered. And then for her to say probable cause would still exist even without those things if they were lies.
First of all, that's not true.
Stop it.
Second of all, a judge, when denying a Frank's motion, most judges will, there's a fucking legal test that judges are supposed to, ideally in theory do, which is literally like the recommendation is to red line the shit that they're alleging is reckless disregard for truth, an omission, an outright lie, right? Literally circle it in red and fucking extract it from the document. And if what you're left with would be convincing and sufficient for a probable cause, then you're good. Okay.
And this was for the search. I said arrest a minute ago. This is the probable cause for this search.
For the search.
So remember, this is before the bullet even existed. This bullshit ballistics from an unspent round. Like, remove that because that didn't exist yet. So we're talking about the probable cause for a search warrant.
Correct.
So take the bullet out, take out the witness on the bridge, take out the bloody guy seen at 4 p.m. walking down the road. What the fuck are you left with?
Dan Doolin. Pretty much.
Rick didn't even say he was there from 1:30 to 3:30 p.m.
I know. There was another thing I was gonna say. Yeah, I don't remember, but that's the IPass lawsuit and stipulation that was referenced a couple of times during the hearing. Rick 100% met the criteria for a seriously mentally ill inmate. She admitted as much and diagnostically assessed or evaluated that and gave him some crayons and a book about the Holocaust written in the fucking 40s, 30s, 50s, written in the fucking 40s.
Literature.
That's so inappropriate. That book, it's like they were mind fucking him. Even his even his psychologist is mind fucking this man. Like,
because it was her little pet.
He was her little pet. Whether she realizes it or not, she's fucking trash. I'm sorry. The shit that that occurred under her watch as a psychologist, and I'm talking about his mental health. Like,
for 13 months.
Whether she realizes it or not, that okay, but like ignorance is not a defense when somebody's life is at stake. When somebody is becoming worse under your care, and there are remedies and avenues that can be that can interrupt that. And I'm glad that she was honest. Obviously she had to be. She didn't have a choice because she got deposed. And
she had a choice. Jerry Holman tells plenty of lies on the stand. He doesn't give a shit.
Jerry Holman's protected. He's got qualified immunity, hun. He ain't fucking worried about
it.
I
will give her that. She did fess up and say it with her whole chest, some things that were probably very, very, very uncomfortable to admit on record.
It's like beyond the pale though of the fact that this is occurring to any. So these violations and shit they're doing to Rick were against this agreement, right? IDOC was sued already by convicted prisoners for violating their mental health and medical and civil and human rights and constitutional fucking rights.
Those things.
All of the things. These are convicted inmates, prisoners. Rick is presumed innocent. Rick is innocent legally right now. Like, he's presumed innocent right now. And he's one of 4 prisoners in Westville that were under 24/7 surveillance. That in itself is coercive.
He was only one of 12 out of 3,000. Only one of 12 out of 3,000 receiving involuntary medication.
Oh my God. And then the other thing that I was listening to...
As an innocent man.
Right. I was listening to your notes from after Walla's testimony. And so she said a couple things that really stood out to me that warrant some fucking scrutiny, not by us, but by the people that are equipped and there to do it. She said that Rick is one of, if not the only pretrial defendant that she's ever seen and treated in, DOC is unmedicated too. Like, so he went into DOC unmedicated because when he was arrested, when he went into DOC, he was medicated. So I don't know when they discontinued his medication, because it's now been discussed in this hearing. So I feel like it's okay to talk about. Rick has documented severe fucking cardiac history. He is a high risk individual to have a cardiac event, a fatal cardiac event. He was on medication for his heart and his blood pressure when he went into DOC. He was also he's also an individual that has a long documented history of depression, major depressive disorder, which is a severe, certainly can be and is a severe debilitating mental illness.
That many people live with. These are not tied into antisocial personality disorder. These are not things that probably a lot of you right now are not also living with and being treated for. This is not the mental history of a killer, just so we're clear. There are so many people living, and he was treating it. He was aware of it. He was seeing doctors for it. He had been medicated since he was 25, about 25.
So for 25 years, he's been
taking care of his mental health.
So it said that Rick has been on psychotropic medication since he was 25. And obviously we don't know if that means like for all 25 years, if he started and stopped. But most people who have like severe depression, or who have severe anxiety or OCD or have bipolar or whatever, like if they've been on psychotropic medication, if they've had prior, hospitalizations, or have interacted with like therapeutic services in any capacity, that means that they generally are okay with like medication, there's no like shame or stigma there that's going to prevent them from taking care of their mental health. He's been on medication for 25 years. He knows that he has these conditions. He's doing what he needs to do to treat them. And clearly he was treating them, at least on the outside, from what, like externally, he's treating them pretty fucking well, because he's been employed for years. He has a solid, strong relationship with his family, all of them. They all still support him, all of them. Never been arrested, never been like in trouble at all, period. And that's a person who, despite their mental illness, is taking care of their mental health. So then he goes into DOC after 25 years of being on SSRIs. All of a sudden, he's not on his Prozac anymore. Why? What in what world, Courtney, would any fucking medical provider with half a fucking brain decide that the best time to discontinue a fucking SSRI for a majorly depressed individual
after 30 years?
After 30 years is when they're institutionalized, incarcerated for the first time in their fucking life, in a
caveman smock,
in a caveman,
and no blanket, in a freezing cold concrete cell with a concrete door and a broken slit window and communication from human beings through a slit in the door.
Whose fucking idea was that?
Great time to discontinue SSRIs.
Whose idea was that? Like, whose idea was that? I don't know whose idea was. It's rhetorical, but, and I don't know anything about medication. I'm not a doctor. I just know that
I'm going to go ahead and throw it. I assume Jerry Holman touched it somewhere along the way.
That's fucking terrifying.
Jerry Holman
he's touched everything that sucks and stinks like fucking shit in this case. Jerry Holman's had his little fucking fingers all fucking over it.
Absolutely.
Like Tony Liggett, big bad, we got beef, but like I'm really on the fuck Jerry Holman train, like heavy, like fuck that guy. He needs to probably go to fucking prison, honestly. He's disgusting.
Absolutely.
And hopefully he will, because this is
Jerry
outrageous.
Holman has done something. I don't know what it is, but he's fucking done something, and I'm going to prove it. Just
Jerry
kidding. We know
Holman.
it. Just kidding. We know what it is.
Jerry Holman. Yeah, you've
Just
done
kidding.
something.
Just kidding. We know what he did.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say anything. Fuck that guy.
Heard.
I'm just thinking about I'm just thinking about Jerry Holman, who, by the way, if anyone wonders, what's Jerry Holman's homicide clearance rate look like as a detective? We can talk about that another time. It's not fucking good. It's not great. So he certainly has other things he could be working on as a now lieutenant, but as a former long, detective of the Indiana State Police Lafayette Post for a year's time, at least. Jerry Holman, picture this for me.
Where's
Jerry
the
Holman-
comment? Where's the comment? You need to put Mandy Ray's up there.
I can't pin comment. Oh, wait, I probably can. Jerry Holman sitting in a fucking room with his snacks and a TV and fucking little headphones just for a year straight. Fucking surveilling, just watching his little monster in a cage, just watching his little monster pace the 15 feet or 15 steps that Rick can walk in his cage for a year, just watching this man that he knows he has zero fucking evidence pointing to him being involved in this crime. Zero. He's still trying to fucking prove it, clearly. Jerry Holman sitting on his fucking ass watching Rick deteriorate before his eyes, making damn sure that he stays there, admitting, oh, I just call a guy. I just drive to Westville, which is not like it's fucking like over the river and through the woods for Jerome. Get to Westville. I just dial a number. I don't know what number it is. Some guy answers. He lets me in. And then I fucking sit with Harshman and review the incriminating shit.
Just the incriminating shit. Harshman procured that for him.
He doesn't have anything better. Sorry.
Harshman didn't care about all the really sad shit he saw or all of the things he heard about professing his innocence or his fear or his sadness or anything else like that. Harshman heard all of that. He acknowledged at the hearing he heard all that. He just procured things for Jer that were of interest to Jer.
So, like,
good guys, real good guys.
Like, what? Like, aren't y'all embarrassed? You don't have anything fucking better to do, Jerry, for a year than surveil your fucking pet monster in your cage, call YouTubers, fucking call YouTubers and talk to YouTubers.
Surveil them too.
Surveil fucking defense witnesses illegally, lie, cheat, bully. Like, this guy fucking sucks. This guy sucks, and Doug Carter promoted him. Fuck you, Doug. Like, these people are so embarrassing. And I don't know that anything's going to happen because, the recourse, that would happen through a fucking Franks hearing. There's a reason that we will never fucking see a Franks hearing because all their shit would come out.
It would be so bad.
It would
be horrendous.
It would be, yeah. It'd be fucking...
But that's fine. We'll hear about it one way or the other. We'll hear about it at a Franks hearing, which isn't going to happen, or we'll hear about it later a different way. It's fine. Imagine arresting a man for double homicide for the most high-profile case in your state's history, certainly in your lifetime, and the words you speak to him before you arrest him for that is, you're guilty of something, and I'm going to fucking prove it.
Yeah.
And then you charged him. What? What?
Well, we also realized that they charged him, but like they waited until the last minute, I think, probably thinking that they were going to squeeze something out of him.
They had the bullet evidence for 2 weeks and didn't arrest him based on that.
I can pin comments. I'm sorry. Yeah,
They
this is the
didn't
thing.
even arrest him until he called being like, hey, can I come get my car now? My wife needs it to go to work.
Right.
He thought he was going to pick up his car. They had the ballistic report identifying it, matching his gun for 2 weeks and did not arrest him. And then interrogate him for hours, still not sure what he's guilty of, but Holman decided he's going to fucking prove it and arrested him.
Mm-hmm.
This is not how any of this works. Why did he talk to them?
This
This
is
is the
true.
only thing I want to know. Why did he
Mhm.
ever talk to them on October 13th? Why did he talk to him when he went in again to get his car?
The same reason he told Walla that he wasn't feeling right.
Do people know that they don't have to talk to the police?
Not what?
If
No,
the
because
police say, can you come in to talk? Do you know that you are able to say no? Like, you don't have to talk to them. You don't have to look at them. You don't have to shake their hand. You don't have to see them. You can say no and go home.
But I think that this happens more often than it should, and it leaves us being like, why would you sit there and talk? Why wouldn't you ask for an attorney? But nobody, no matter like how jaded they are, is gonna assume or believe that you could possibly. No, actually, Jerry Holman was also the lead on the Flora fire, which is still unsolved for a period of time. Don't talk to the police. You don't have to, but a lot of people do, especially people who are telling the truth. So I think that the same reason Rick talked to them on the whatever day after the murders that he admitted to being in the area beforehand, right? Yeah, he came forward to talk to them because he's like, oh, yeah, maybe I can, whatever. I'm not going to like assume, but he probably was trying to be helpful. That's why he talked to the police. On the 13th of October, when all of a sudden he hears from them again after 5 fucking years, he's probably assuming, oh, maybe there's something that they know that I can fill in a gap and be helpful again. That's why he talked to the police. Why did he let them search his house on October 13th? Well, I don't have anything to hide. I don't have anything related to the murder in my house. So maybe this is a quicker way to get it over with and clear me, because you know for a fucking fact that they told him that if you just let us search, we'll just clear you. That way you'll be clear. You won't have to worry about it. Don't you want to be cleared? So
Innocent people say yes. People who trust the cops say yes. People who don't have anything to hide say yes. They had already started searching his house and didn't put the search warrant into his hand until they wanted to take his car away.
Yeah. And I also want to know what Jerry Holman did to Rick's wife. You know? You're having a rager over there.
Yeah, my little light died.
Well, we're done. I mean, we're done now. About done. I'm sure there's other stuff that we didn't cover, but I just feel like I think that for whatever reason, whether Rick really did just like reappear in their investigation, or if something more nefarious occurred with that tip, which is my belief, there have been so many opportunities for individuals to do the right thing and intervene and help Rick. And there's been so many awesome, incredible people that have tried, like Click, Ferenczi, and Murphy. You know, not specifically Rick, but they tried to do the right thing. And now Click and Murphy are putting a lot on the line, telling the truth. You've got Carolina. Yeah, who? Sorry.
Mike Thomas.
Mike Thomas, who
the OG whistleblower.
The OG, and look at what they've done to Mike Thomas. You know, Mike Thomas is doing fine, but that's not because they like weren't fucking awful to him. And all he wanted to do was conduct an investigation that wasn't a fucking joke, honestly. He's like, oh, I
He
guess,
wanted to do what Robert Ives told him to do.
yeah, Robert Ives left. Where did Robert Ives go? Mike Thomas is gone. Deb Lowe's gone. Where did Deb Lowe go? I mean, there's a reason that the people that get promoted and the people that stay, you know, in these positions get promoted and stay in these positions. And then the people that are, I guess, problematic or disagree or paying too close attention seem to kind of dissipate. It's awful, but
So
is
there's
what it is.
something the next time we do this,
Yeah.
I was hoping, because I wanted DB to talk about it because he probably knows a lot about it and could explain it
Yeah.
a lot better than me.
Uh-huh.
But next time, and if anybody wants some homework to get out there and go research something, go out there and start looking up what knowledge C is. Knowledge, like the letter C. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Knowledge C, because this was my favorite part about hearings that I learned. I didn't realize there's always like when you're talking to somebody on the stand, the lawyers always want to get in like this mic drop moment as their final question, right? They want to leave it on a no more questions. That's all I got. Like every single time I was like, oh, it was like a rap battle. Whenever they left off, it was always just like some bomb right before they said, no more questions, I'm done. But so when they were talking to the guy from ISP, Cecil,
Mm-hmm.
about the phone and the defense is really, really, really hot on this 4:33 a.m. phone. They said the phone was connected to a tower and accessed at 4:33 a.m. Accessed is the key word. And so OJ was doing a lot of questioning about Cecil at the hearing. And right when she was done, when they were talking about this and she was getting him to agree that the only reason a flood of text messages came in at 4:33 a.m. after 0 text messages came in for the past 12 hours is because the phone was powered on and connected to a tower. Cecil says, yes, okay, I agree with you. I agree with that. And then she just looks at him and she goes, hey, do you know what knowledge C is? And Cecil goes, yeah. She goes, okay, no more questions.
Yeah. So what do you think?
So, I want DB to explain it. And our friend Sorcerer pulled up a bunch of stuff for me today about the Murdaugh case. I didn't realize that was a really big deal in the Murdaugh case. How they knew he was running at certain times or looking at his phone at certain times, not using an app or sending a text message or receiving a phone call. Those
Right,
are things you
like screen lit up,
even like unlocking his phone and
Yeah.
like just looking at it and then locking it again. That's
Yeah.
knowledge C.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, I want to dig into that next time, but start reading about it and what it's a database that'll be part of a Celebrite extraction, for example. It's just one of the many, many databases that's going to be in a forensic phone extraction, which were redone to Libby's phone, I think like a year ago. And then another fresh extraction was done right before the hearing, which the defense did not have the results of yet. But the technology and the capabilities of these forensic phone extractions are constantly improving, upgrading, changing. The technology just keeps getting better. So that's why they've been repeating it and doing new ones.
Yeah.
And the defense is hot on this. And I think it's going to obliterate everything we thought we knew about the crime. not just about Richard Allen. I think it's going to obliterate everything we thought we knew about the crime itself.
Thanks, Heather. Yeah, probably, hopefully. Well, there's a hearing on the 23rd, so I'm sure we'll see like more filings before that, because what's today? The 14th. I mean, it's still over a week away. And yeah, we'll see what happens. Rick is no longer in the Department of Corrections. And I hope that there are conversations being had among those that need to have them about, you know, I don't believe that everything that occurred within the walls of the Department of Correction relating to Rick Allen, every piece of evidence, quote unquote evidence, every statement that that man has made, incriminating or exculpatory, doesn't fucking matter. Nothing that was obtained since Rick's incarceration and detention in the Department of Corrections should be admissible, because his entire stay, the fact that he was ever fucking there in the first place without a safekeeping hearing, without representation, being held in segregation, in restrictive housing, despite being severely mentally ill for most of it. Like, we're not just talking like DOC policy violations. Like, these are we're talking fucking, these are ADA violations. These are civil rights violations. These are major fucking violations. And this is a big fucking deal. And I can only just hope and assume that, like, the attorneys don't stop banging that drum, because they shouldn't be worried about any incriminating statements when, in my opinion, they need to be, like, just fucking cutting it off at the root, which is nothing. We're not even going to argue the merits or the lucidity or the sanity or the competence of the defendant when he made the statements, because there are no statements, because there's no fucking stay at DOC, period, that should ever be relevant in his fucking criminal case, in his trial, period. You don't get to violate somebody's constitutional rights and then benefit from that as the state. The government does not get to violate your constitutional rights and cheat, violate your fucking constitutional rights and cheat to obtain evidence to prosecute you. Like, they don't get to benefit from cheating. So now there's a remedy. It's called, if you violate my constitutional right and obtain evidence as a result of that, oops, you don't get to keep your evidence. You don't get to benefit from violating my constitutional rights. The state of Indiana
What was the blueprint for this? They didn't think of this on their own. They didn't think of it on October 30th to be like, okay, here's what we're gonna do.
I have no.
We gotta break this dude down.
But we knew that
there's something called a safekeeping order.
No, they knew about
Carroll
it.
County has never
Courtney,
made a safekeeping order.
The 28th, they knew about it. Tobe had already worked it out with DOC on the 28th of October.
But this wasn't knowledge Tobe Lesenby had. This wasn't knowledge that probably Dean or somebody told them like this. They had a blueprint for this, because
this is their MO, Courtney. Like, I agree with you.
Known that this existed. Like, how are we going to get him into solitary, where he's going to be broken down to a shell of a human, and we're going to get a confession out of him?
Courtney,
I had never even heard the word safekeeping before that.
This is who they are, Courtney. This is how that, like, they don't even have to try. Like, if this is your MO, if this is your standard operating procedure, if this is how you've always done things, you don't even think that you're doing anything wrong. What do you mean? Why is the defense giving me such a hard time, Judge? Why is the defense calling me corrupt, Judge? This is ridiculous. I'm just trying to do my job and get justice for these girls. They don't even have the awareness that they're fucking criminals, because this is how they've always done shit. it just comes, it's inherent. It comes naturally to them. And the people that are indifferent and complacent are to blame, except I have to also acknowledge that why would anyone want to be a whistleblower? Like, look what happens when you.
It doesn't go well.
No.
You don't
And
get you don't get a parade. You don't get celebrated. You don't get. I mean, you might get people like us talking about you and congratulating you, but you're not going to get a big positive reception in your community of friends and associates.
No. Like, what does Officer Murphy and Officer Click, like, what do they have to gain from doing this? What do they have to gain? Why would anyone want to?
They're built different. Like, this meant something to them.
Yeah.
They didn't understand why this guy was arrested and why search warrants that they created were never executed.
Well,
they wanted to know why they have a friend that was in the FBI that did all of this work with them for 2 years, who was murdered outside of a federal building, and like
by a corrections officer who's also severely mentally ill. Like,
isn't that something?
Are we just not like? Are we? There is a part in the June 2022 or 2023 due process hearing where Rosie is questioning the warden, and he says something along the lines of, "So when you recognize that Rick Allen was like really, really sick, you didn't think he needed to go to like a mental health?" And the warden goes, "No, if he were really sick, he would go to the infirmary." And Rosie's like, "Mental illness. Like this is the whole like fucking issue." Or at least part of the issue is that,
yeah, it's not pneumonia. He's fine. Like,
right, he's not physically ill. He's just, which first of all is not true, because mental illness 1,000% impacts your physical body. We're not like, hey, I don't know if like the warden and Nick McClellan know this, but your fucking ass is actually like connected to the same fucking body as your brain. So you can't just like disconnect them and act like they're two separate entities that have nothing to do with one another. Mental health and physical health are the same fucking thing legally, as far as you're concerned. This man is sick. He's not functional. He's lost 40 pounds in 2 months.
how can you do that?
It's me, Rochelle. So, let me know.
You're looking at her.
Who do you think Holman? Never mind. Ooh.
Ooh, almost.
One day. Yeah. I want to talk to Diener. I don't mean Stacy Diener. I want to talk to Benjamin Diener, who Sleuthy called it his Diener's sign and resign. I want to know, because Diener's not like he's like a bad judge because he's insane, but he knows like law relatively well. He at least knows like what the parameters are of like what's probably too, like, what is the bare minimum of what I have to do to stay out of trouble. I would say Diener has a good grasp of that.
Right.
So the fact that Judge Diener signed off on, first of all, not just fucking skipping a safekeeping hearing. It's not a suggestion. This is a fucking.
Didn't he write it?
He wrote the motion himself. Tobe's like, I submitted one, and he rewrote it. Poor Tobe. By the way, no, never mind. Doesn't matter.
The judge proofread and edited a motion that he was going to sign.
I would take it so far as to speculate that he just fucking wrote the thing.
I mean, that's not okay, right?
That's like Judge Gall authoring a motion. That would be like Judge Gall authoring a motion for Nick McClellan to sit next to me throughout the entire trial, and then filing it as if it were filed by Tobe Lesenby, and then
Fine.
granting it. And then Nick McClellan gets to sit next to her the whole trial. That is the equivalent of what the fuck. That's insane. And not only
Benny, what you doing?
Benny, what you doing, hon? What you doing, hon?
What you doing, Benny?
This is also a good point. I think that there's like, it's not always obvious on its face, right? People, oh, Carroll County's not dangerous. Courtney, I don't know if you didn't, I don't know if you knew this, but Delphi is like not a dangerous place. The people that are saying Delphi is dangerous obviously have never been to a small town before. Okay, nobody is saying that I'm gonna get murked walking down the street in Delphi. I'm not, because I haven't, because I've done it. So is Courtney. Like, that's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about like overt, obvious, like
the
threat.
folk, the townsfolk.
No, what we're talking about is it is just well known and established that if you buck in Carroll County, there will be consequences. You're gonna feel it. You're gonna be exiled. You're gonna be retaliated against. They're gonna slander you. They're gonna lie about you. They're gonna promote. Oh, like our friend Sharon Milburn, who is she's an elected official. She's the clerk of Carroll County Court. She was basically coerced, or Judge Atkins tried to coerce her to violate Indiana code and break the law, and she refused and ended up basically being forced to like sue him. She literally took the judge to court. And anyway, regardless, like, I heard that and I was like, that's fucking amazing. You know who was the only person who didn't get a fucking promotion and raise like last year? Like, it's not just that, like, oh, they kick you out of their like book club.
Shay Ron?
They fuck with your livelihood. They fuck with your sense of security. They fuck with your these people live there. Like, you can't just be going around blowing whistles when you have to live there. Like, I understand that. That's why sometimes there's interveners who file lawsuits who have no business. Why did Carol Winicky file a lawsuit? She's not representing Rick Allen. I realize it's not the same thing, but like, there are people who like care, who don't live there.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
Like us, like other attorneys. Like,
So fucking what?
Like, why do you care? Like, bitch, why don't you care?
Why don't you care is actually a better question. Next time somebody asks us why we care, what business do you have in Carroll County, Indiana? What business do you have not paying attention? Because
business you have breathing my air right now.
This isn't a vacuum. Like, this doesn't happen in a vacuum. This is not this, and it doesn't. It extends way past Carroll County and way past Indiana, because we just spent 3 fucking hours talking about all the federal fucking civil rights violations and human rights violations that are happening and occurring before everybody's eyes. It's not even like they're hiding it. You went before a judge in a public hearing and admitted that you're fucking videotaping a pretrial defendant's meetings with his attorneys.
Hell yeah, brother.
You didn't get struck by fucking lightning when you said that in court, and the judge and the public's heads didn't fucking fly off their bodies. Like, that's a problem. That's a fucking problem that they can just admit shit like this in open court, and we're still fucking fighting about it.
You got guards with a magnify.
Like what my dad had in the fucking 80s, right?
Just mine too, like out at Disney World with like a 40-pound camcorder on his shoulder, with his foot in the door with the attorneys, like getting that, like he was probably like getting good angles, like.
I don't know how.
Like, where else does this happen? This isn't normal.
This isn't normal. This isn't normal. Like, the people like losing their shit over it. I don't know, man. It's stupid. The whole thing's fucking stupid. If there wasn't like somebody's life on the line, it would be a comedy of errors and corruption. It would be a comedy of errors, but it's not. because there's still a man who is not being afforded what he's entitled to under like just basic. I'm not even talking legally, just like your basic fucking human rights. Like Jesus fucking Christ.
Does your sign say no behind you?
No. Oh yeah. It says no. Isn't it cool?
No.
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 Unless yeah, I need an R so I can say no.
You need a UR.
Nor. Oh, nor. Courtney. Yeah, no, I'm sure at one point it spelled a different word, but
I like that better.
yeah. Sometimes when it's mirrored, it just says Let's go.
Okay.
We've been yapping forever. I don't even know if we talked about what we wanted to, but
I think we did.
me too.
I think we did good.
Okay.
I think we did
Thank you
it.
everyone for hanging out with us. We're gonna, we're just gonna do what we do. Living the dream. Right, Courtney?
Thank you guys.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.